Got it? I don't think it's shut.
No, I don't got it.
I got it. There we go.
Is it on?
Everything's recording. All right, guys, welcome to our long-awaited, long-promised Q&A video.
Finally.
But it's good timing because we just wrapped up season 1
Yep.
with our grand finale at Salmon Glacier, and so it's good timing.
Yeah, it is. It's perfect timing because we still have all the feels now.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And so do all y'all.
Man, I
So
tell you what, wrapping this thing up it's been an emotional roller coaster because, you know, we've been living that and then reliving it as we've been editing these hours and hours and hours of footage over the past several months, and so to finally finish it up is rewarding, but it's also like saying goodbye to that epic adventure in a way too.
I know.
So okay, so several months ago I threw out a question on all of our social media and said, you know, if you guys have any questions, let's hear them. We want to do a Q&A video. And so, like I said, that was several months ago. Let's go ahead and get to the questions. And ironically, the first one is from Jason at Primal Outdoors, and he says, will you be attending Overland Expo West? Yes, we did.
it was great.
It was incredible. Expo West, if you haven't been, it's got to be on your bucket list at some point.
Yeah.
So, no, that was really awesome. The next question comes from one of our patrons, Andrew Reeves, and he says, what's the lowest temp you've had the Turtleback in with the water lines and tanks? Any concerns with freezing temps? We've been down to about 9 degrees in the Turtleback, and here's the secret. The Turtleback's water tanks are stored inside the body,
right,
along with the water heater. So if you turn the water heater on, there's a lot of ambient heat that comes off of that system, and it keeps that cabin nice and toasty. We've never had it freeze up.
Nope.
Never had it freeze up. So I don't know if you'd want to do prolonged single digits.
right.
Yeah,
But that was just one night.
That was probably a 12-14 hour period, but it was still below freezing the next day.
Yes.
So, but yeah, having those water tanks inside is definitely one of the advantages that the Turtleback has, and that's the reason why we run the Turtleback.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the next question is from patron Aaron Dodal. How is the amount of driving time split up between you two? 50-50, 70-30, etc.? And who's the primary driver? Well, I think by now you know that Sarah is our professional driver.
Yes.
And several reasons for that. Do you want to explain those? Or you want me to explain those?
I'll explain.
Does it sound better if you do it?
Yes.
Okay.
It makes more sense.
Okay.
So the reason I am the driver is because long ago when we started traveling and overlanding and doing weekend excursions, he would make me jump out to film something or take a picture of something, and I would take a picture, come back in, show it to him. He'd be like, no, that's not right. You need to sit down like this and angle it up like that, and you want to get this feeling. And I'm like, I'm done. No, you can jump out and do whatever you want to do, and I will get us from A to B. So that is why I am the driver, and which is good because you can still get your footage or picture that you want while still guiding me over a technical course or situation kind of deal. So win-win.
It's worked really good for that because, you know, I can be running the camera and spotting at the same time. And then the other thing of it is it gives her more and more experience. So if something was to happen to me,
right,
she has the same amount of skill, if not more, than I do to get us out of a backcountry situation and get to some help.
Right.
The other practical part of it is I'm over here taking care of social media and I'm editing videos and taking care of the business side of things. So yeah, it's been a good.
But I would say if we had to break it down in percentage wise, it's like 90-10. Like there are times where I'm just like, dude, I'm just done. I can't stand this trail anymore. It's too bumpy. Or I'm just tired from driving. I need you to take over.
Well, and sometimes I want to drive. Like it's an awesome
true.
trail, and I just want to drive. So, all right, this one's from Eric Wells, another patron. What one piece of equipment or gear is indispensable / which do you never use?
Never use.
So, what do we use the most of, and would never do away with, and what do we never use?
from this trip or just in general? Because
No,
I got something on Kev that we never used.
This particular trip, and I already know what it is, but go ahead and say it.
So the one thing that Kevin had to bring, yet never used, used one time, a guitar. We took a guitar.
I envisioned it a lot more different than it actually played out. I envisioned us, sitting around the campfire, strumming.
Yeah.
I was gonna fine tune my guitar skills and stuff on this trip, but
No.
guys, we were so busy. I mean, we made it look like it was this relaxing,
Right.
vacation-y style stuff. But there was so much work in the background that usually by the end of the day, after we spend a few minutes as a family, we were just ready to go to bed.
Yep.
I mean, we were just kind of done.
Yep.
Living outside full time just it wears your body down, and you're ready to go to bed by the time the sun's going down.
Basically, yeah. So what is the one thing for you that you have to have and always use?
That's tough because there's so many critical pieces to doing what we do. I'm going to say my favorite is probably the tablet. Having the tablet with vehicle diagnostics, navigation with guide GPS, having all of our music stored on there, having videos like Netflix and stuff.
Yes.
I would say that's probably one of the most used pieces that we have is a good tablet with all that software on there.
Yeah.
Can I tell the camera what's my favorite part about it?
Let's see what Caroline has to say. I'm going to take you back there so she can say it. What was your favorite part?
My dad downloaded a new game for me, and it has Legos, and you drive the car, and I had a noose on my purple iPad, and Daddy downloaded it.
Nice.
Awesome. So she loves Legos. Legos are not the greatest travel toy, but we make it happen.
Well, it was essential.
But then we found an app that lets her play Legos on the app. Okay, so this is another patron. This is Eric Wells' wife asking this one. From the wife. Is it exhausting to keep moving every day, or is it good to plan days where you just hang at camp?
It is exhausting to move every single day. And it is good to play at down times. And we did, there were times where we were going, and then we realized, oh, we really like this spot. We actually have it in our time frame. Let's stay here for 2 or 3 nights.
Yeah.
And then we did.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we usually moved every day. And it does get exhausting after a while, but you create such a systematic routine that everything gets done that it just becomes second nature at that point.
And I would say that downtime is extremely important if you're going to do this, for long periods of time.
Yeah.
But when you're traveling in the North Country, you've got Old Man Winter tapping you on the shoulder saying, "I'm coming, I'm coming. It's going to get cold eventually." And so psychologically, you feel like you have to keep moving to take in as much as possible before winter hits.
Right.
So.
And we had a lot we wanted to see.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So.
Next question. This is from patron Elsewhere Overland. Are there plans to move over to the Land Cruiser at some point? That's all I'll say on that.
Next question.
This is from patron Carmen Bray. Good morning, good evening, travel fam. It is actually 4 o'clock here, so it's afternoon. How has the weather been while staying in the rooftop tent? Even though I could tell it's been a bit chilly, I wasn't sure how the tent holds up to expectations. I understand that there is other gear that plays a factor, but curious how you feel about it so far. So, we had several pretty chilly nights, even in August. So it snowed at Adigan Pass.
Yeah.
And it was 32 degrees at Adigan Pass in the middle of August. Our tent is good down to about 26, 28 degrees without any supplemental heat.
Right.
Without any supplemental heat. And
with appropriate clothes and bedding.
Yeah,
we don't need the buddy heater.
And the big thing is we don't use sleeping bags. We use blankets. So all of our heat is combined. So it's a super cold night. Caroline goes in the middle. We just snuggle up and stay pretty doggone toasty warm.
And then when I always go in the middle, I always kick the blanket.
You
and
do.
she kicks the blankets
Sometimes
off.
she gets too hot.
Yeah. And then when it is below 28, that's when the buddy heater comes out. And what we'll do is we'll put the annex on the bottom of the tent, set up the buddy heater down in the base of the tent, and open the doors and just let that heat come up there. And man, we've had it down to 14 degrees outside and maintaining 60 degrees up in the tent. And that works really, really well. The trade-off is sometimes we'll actually put the buddy heater in the tent with us without putting the annex on, but we only run it like before bed, and then when we get cold during the night, click it on, warm up, turn it back off. And let me tell you, on high,
and it doesn't take long. Like
it'll be 90 degrees.
Yeah, you're not
like
falling
that.
back asleep worried that you're going to burn yourself up. Like, it gets hot, you
Yeah.
turn it off, and then you go back
You
to
feel
sleep.
like you're burning up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an incredible difference between a standard dome tent and a true rooftop tent with a heavier material and vents that you can kind of close down. Also, how has the change in daylight times affected your travels? Man, I tell you what, up in the Arctic, when we were having 22 hours of daylight, it was rough.
And then we acclimated, and we found ourselves staying up till 2 a.m.
Or 3 a.m.
Like Caroline hanging with us. Like, it's not like she was, sleepy or cranky.
Yeah.
We were all just up and up.
Yeah, and then we'd sleep until 1 p.m. the next day.
11 the next day, usually.
And sometimes it was really, really surreal. And, and like even at Tuktoyaktuk, there were kids out playing at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
And we asked the locals, like, why are these kids out and playing? And they said, you know what, when you have 24 hours of darkness, you learn to let those kids get out there and play all they want to play and get all the sunshine they can get before everything changes again. So, made sense.
Absolutely did.
So, all right, let's keep hitting these questions. All right, Jim at Rollin' Dirty Overland, another patron. When you bought those sweet, sweet shoes, did you already know that I have the exact same shoes and copycatted me?
Which sweet, sweet shoes? Your Chacos?
Solomons. How do you say it? It's
what are you
S-
talking about? Your boots?
No. Those shoes that are like my hiking shoes that I wore the whole time.
Oh, your green ones.
Is it
Your tennis
Salmons?
shoes.
It's
Oh, I don't know.
Anyhow, no, I did not know that. But that's a cool fact.
And they've been great shoes.
They've been great shoes. All right, he says, okay, seriously though, I noticed you're running a ham repeater app while underway to track available repeaters in your vicinity. What app is it, and does it require active data signal? That app is called the Repeater Book, and no, it does not require signal. It is all text-based, so whenever you're connected to Wi-Fi, it updates the database, and I guess no matter where you are in North America, or maybe even the world, it picks up your Jeep. GoPro just died.
Technology.
This is the new GoPro 7, and it's a piece of junk.
You don't go there.
It's Q&A. I'm just telling you guys. This is the struggles. Okay, we're trying to give y'all another angle, so probably overheated again. Anyhow, what was I talking about? I was talking about the Repeater Book app. It is incredible. No, you don't need signal. Picks up your GPS signal and then gives you repeaters within the immediate area. All right. Let's see now. Patron Christopher Cracked. I miss Chris. What do you miss the most about not having a regular home? Long hot showers.
That's definitely your thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely your thing. What do I miss the most about a home? Probably just, that like relaxed feeling you get. Like you can wander around in your pajamas or, I think I just missed having like a surrounding home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like not having to go outside to cook my meals and
cook in the rain.
Always be in the weather.
And the wind.
In the wind.
The wind in a rooftop tent. It doesn't matter the rooftop tent. If the wind is howling, it's just loud.
Yep.
But we got pretty used to it.
We did actually. We got pretty good at it.
Yeah. Earplugs are nice too.
Yeah.
So. All right. How often do you stay with friends, hotel, Airbnb to maintain your sanity?
We didn't do it as much as we should have.
No, we had plans to like every couple weeks get a hotel. And I think for the whole 7 months, we stopped about 5 times.
Yeah.
And not for very long when we did.
Right.
Except for the one 8-day stay in Fairbanks.
Yeah.
That was the longest.
But that was like out of necessity because the vehicle was down.
Yeah, that was when we were working on the wheel.
It's not like we were like, oh, we love it.
Yeah.
Let's stay here and relax.
Yeah.
Granted, we took advantage of it, but.
All right. So, Chris, that's 2 questions of yours. You got like 5
Well, and I
others.
was gonna
We're going to
say-
move on to someone else.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say, I think that's a topic of conversation that needs to be talked about more
Yeah.
amongst full-timers. And sure, there may be full-timers who can just go, and are fine with that. But I think it's very important to get out of your rig. Because, absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Sure.
Just to get out of your rig and just unwind a little bit and miss it a little bit. And then when you get back in it, you're like rearing and ready to go.
That's true. Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, I want to pause and get the GoPro back up.
Okay.
So hopefully this GoPro will stay on for a bit.
We'll see.
All right.
Anyway.
We're recording. Anyhow, back to what we were doing. I hope you guys don't mind this. We're just along for the ride. Like, this is not whatever.
We've thought this felt more normal than just sitting in a chair.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Anyhow. All right, next question is from Thomas Stewart, one of our patrons. How do you manage to live in a small space with a child? My wife and I are soon to be first-time parents. And we want to change our lifestyles to be more present for our daughter and offer experiences that most lifestyles would not offer. I would love some general advice on parenting and on how to travel with a child.
One, because I am a major overthinker, it's not as hard as you think it is.
Yeah.
And no, we did not travel long distances with Caroline until she was over a year old.
Yeah.
We flew anywhere.
Right.
So, travel-wise, do what you want to do, but in our experience, we didn't drive with her till she was at least over a year old.
Yeah. Well, and the big thing is small, achievable trips.
Yes, and that's what I was about to say next.
Yeah.
Is plan small things and know that you have to stop often. You watch your kid play at your house and they're bouncing from toy to toy to toy to thing to whatever, and then all of a sudden they're bored.
Yeah.
So keep in mind that's how they're going to be in the car too.
Right. Got to be creative.
Yeah.
And one answer doesn't fit every child.
Right.
We could tell you what works for Caroline, and it might not work for your kid. So having a wide range of things in your tool bag is key. Coloring, iPad, music, games, and then just getting out frequently to keep things, spiced up. They're growing and they want to do a lot of different things, so feed that.
Yeah.
But then also there's a time where you just have to train.
Yeah, and they just have to be bored in the car. I mean, we were when we were kids. We didn't have iPads and phones and things. Like, my parents would say, look out the window if you're bored.
And that's the thing, is don't fall into the assumption that they have to be entertained all the time.
Right.
You got to stretch their abilities to use their minds. And if they have time to just sit there and be bored and think about things, it's good. It's good for the development.
Yep.
All right, guys, moving on to questions from YouTube.
Woo!
All right, first is from Jalil Burdine. And I apologize because I can't pronounce all these. Living with the kiddo on the road full time, how do you guys find time for space to do the adult thing, for lack of a more appropriate term? Interesting question we get quite frequently.
Yes.
And to be honest with you, we share a lot of our lives with you guys and a lot of the details and things like that. There's a few things that we're not going to share, and that is our sex life and our physical well-being, so like our health. And politics and religion. We're just along with this ride, and that's it. So we're not going to go into detail. I will say this. People have been doing this for thousands of years, and many of them lived in caves and tents and other small confined spaces.
Yep.
And somehow...
one-room log houses.
Yeah, somehow the population has continued to grow, so be creative.
Next question.
Next question. Are there any permits required before camping on BLM land? No, asterisk.
Yeah, that's true.
There may be some places. I have never, ever come across a place like that Now, there might be a recreation area that's managed by the BLM land that might require a permit. So check your local regulations before traveling.
Yeah.
And that's the best advice I can give.
Guessing a snack or something, because that's like kind of what we do anyway.
I guess not.
The good old Stripes
Mm-hmm.
of West Texas.
It was time, too.
Yeah. Oh, I turned it on.
I already have it recording.
Oh. All right, now we've got a question from Tractorman CT. Has the trailer ever hindered you from going somewhere that you would have attempted without? If it did it again, would you eliminate it?
You know, it's always a trade-off. No matter what gear you take or what vehicle you decide to go with, having that trailer brings a lot of convenience with it. I would say that it is worth the trade-off to have the limited mobility when it comes to extremely technical trails or not knowing whether or not you're going to be able to turn around somewhere down the road. Yes, it has made us think twice about specific trails, but what we can do is simply disconnect the trailer and do a bit of scouting. It adds a little bit more time to doing what we do, but when you consider all the convenience that comes with it, it's totally worth it. Honestly, yeah, I would like to do some travels with just a single vehicle, and we may transition to that from time to time in the future just to kind of challenge ourselves and do something different. But for now, the trailer is where it's at. All right, so this one's from Josh Hansen. What are some examples of activities you and your family do after you settle down for camp?
The first thing Caroline always requests is Legos, is to put a table out in Legos. And then usually, you know, Kevin's working on something or really exploring the spot. That's one of their favorite things to do. Is Kevin and Caroline always go on a little nature walk, explore what they're looking at. And then I usually just had downtime, alone time. I would set up the kitchen, either start making us a snack or a meal. A lot of what I do evolves around food and serving my people. So I enjoy the fact of, one, getting alone time, two, watching Kevin and Caroline bond while being outside, and three, eating. Yep, the gas cap still dangles.
You always move my seat.
Actually, it's you always move my seat.
That's true. I apologize.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a question from Shawell11. How far in advance are you planning the legs of your journey? That's funny.
Well, I guess it depends on to what level of detail that you're talking about. Like this trip specifically, we did not have a route laid out. We did not say we're going here and then there kind of thing. We just knew generally what we wanted to go and do and see, and then we would look a week or two in advance, and then find some internet, maybe download the maps for that region that we wanted to travel to.
Yeah.
Just so we'd always have the information that we needed. And then we also carried, you know, some general Alaska North Country type books, like the
Alaska milepost.
The milepost.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
Well, once we got into Alaska, Kev was like, "All right, you're planning Alaska." He got us up to Tuck and over to Alaska, and then he would put in his 2 cents if I made suggestions, but otherwise, that Alaska milepost book was my Bible.
Yeah,
And
it was
we
awesome.
really planned almost everything based on that. All right, we've got a question from Luke King. What tire pressures do you run on and off road, aired up and aired down?
So typically, if we're running on pavement, we'll run 40 in the front to 44 in the back, and then about 35 on the trailer. Of course, if it's a rough road, we might take it down from there. Off-road, it really depends on the situation. We vary quite a bit just depending on the type of terrain that we're on. I've actually got an article that I've written, and I'll probably do a video at some point just to kind of talk about how we arrived at those air pressures. I hesitate to say you need to run this because your rig might weigh something different than mine, or you might run a different tire or a different load range tire. So air pressures are really, really vehicle specific. So just test some stuff out on your own and find what works best for you.
Yeah. We've got a question from Aiden Toon. I was wondering how y'all got the mural patches to stick to the headline of the 4Runner. Do y'all use Velcro or some kind of an adhesive material?
This is actually our number one question. People ask us this. It's Velcro. These are Velcro back. But sad news is if you have one of those headliners that's nice and shiny or very slick, it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. I don't know what the solution is. Maybe a hot glue gun, but then, you know, it's staying. So, yeah, it's Velcro. That's the secret.
Okay. T-Ball has this question. He says, why a Toyota and not a Jeep Wrangler?
Sensitive subject. I will say this. One of the main reasons why we went with a Toyota to start with was because everyone had a Jeep.
Yes.
And we wanted something different.
Yeah.
It wasn't that we had anything against the Jeep. We just wanted to do it a bit differently. But now that we've had this thing for over 5 years and we've traveled with friends who have Jeeps and who have subsequently changed over to 4Runners, we made the right choice.
Yep.
We really did. Do you want to tell like a quick story on how we ended up with a 4Runner though?
Sure. So originally at the time, we had a lot of friends who were going Jeeping, because that's what they called it at the time. And we wanted to be a part of it. They were taking their kids, so we thought, why can't we take our kid? And so we had our eyes set on an FJ Cruiser, is what we really wanted. And so we decided...
Desert tan.
Yeah, desert tan to match the Troopy, right?
Well, to the Troopy, and at the time we had that green kind of desert tan turtleback.
Oh, right. That's right. And so we went and we were getting ready to test drive our first FJ, and we had to put the car seat from the car we had into the terrain. And that suicide door... I'm sorry, why did I say the terrain? Because that's what we had before. Yeah. Into the Cruiser. And so that suicide door, she opened up, and I was like, Kev, no, I'm not putting like a sleeping kid into the back of this vehicle. Like, I was like, if you really want it, we can do it. But this is not going to be my first pick. This is going to be hard.
Yeah.
And so, and it would have been my daily driver because we were trading in my car for this, for the next rig. And so we test drove 2 because we were like, well, she's going to grow up. We'll get over it. We'll get used to it, whatever. And then at the end of that second one, we were both just kind of like felt a little defeated by it. Like it just really didn't fit us for some reason. And so the salesman was like, have you tried the 4Runner? And we were like, no. Like,
you didn't want to drive it.
No, we had our mindset on looking a certain way in the FJ. And he's like, just take it for a drive. And we're like, okay. So we all get in and we all fit comfortably.
And you can see out of it.
Yes, and you can see out of it. And it had the crawl control and
locking diff.
Yes. And I mean, we were sold. Like, we didn't test drive that thing for very long.
There's a mile down the road and she goes,
yep, let's buy it. Yeah. So that's how we came to the 4Runner. Louise Marquez, how do you find local trails in your area?
Well, that's a great question. We actually rely heavily on Gaia GPS app. With over 250 maps and layers of information to choose from, you can really sit down at the computer, lay out all your public land areas, get an idea of what's accessible and what's not, and plan your trips. There's also a lot of information on the internet as well, so you can go out there and look up different trails that people have already traveled, like the back road discovery routes and stuff. Those are really great. All of our GPS information for the Enchanted Rockies Trail is out there as well. But really, what it all comes down to is having a good program to do your own research and to make sure that you're doing it legally. And we use Guide GPS for that. And there's a couple videos on the channel where you can kind of see how we go through that process.
Right. Okay, here's a question from Brandon C. Have you done a video on your vehicle build? And he's interested in a breakdown of the trailer mods from the stock Turtleback. Pros and cons of what you're running would also be great.
Okay, I'll try and condense that a little bit.
Or you could just do a whole other video on it, huh?
Well, so one of the 42 videos on my to-do list is to do a walkthrough video of everything that we've done to the 4Runner. I've been waiting until the 4Runner is finished. The 4Runner is never finished.
Yeah.
And so it's been pushing out a bit. But there is one video that Overland Bound did, a walk around of the rig, and then Ronnie Dahl is doing a modified. So you'll get even more information from his video, which I think he said comes out in a couple of weeks from now.
Awesome.
The next piece of that was what are the mods on the Turtleback beyond the base model? It has every bell and whistle. So if you go to their website, turtlebacktrailers.com, and you look at all the options, I think we have every option available on the orange one. So the number one thing, if you buy the base trailer, the number one thing I would recommend, get that Icon suspension on it. Game changer. Absolute game changer when it comes to towing a trailer.
Oh, here's a good one. Hendrick says, when are you planning on doing this trip to Alaska during the winter?
It's on the list.
It is.
It would definitely be a different setup. Obviously, we wouldn't be doing it with a tent.
No.
But we want to see Alaska and Canada in the winter. I know people think we're probably crazy, but talking to the locals, that's when it comes alive.
Yeah.
That's when the locals are out doing their thing and getting out on their snow machines or snowmobiles, depending on where you're from.
Right.
That's what I want to go back and experience. And then seeing the northern lights on a consistent basis.
Right.
So, yeah, it's high on the list to return.
Yes. Now we're moving on to the Facebook portion of the questionnaire.
The book face portion.
Yes.
There goes the GoPro again.
She hot.
Please don't catch on fire in a minute.
I know, I'm scared. Tom Blanchett asks, what kind of rig are you going to run after you sell the Turtleback?
Well, interestingly enough, and I know there's been a bit of misdirection and confusion recently, which ties directly into a lot of things that happen in season 2. But
Yes.
the Turtleback was for sale once we returned from the trip for financial reasons due to a legal matter. And luckily enough, we were able to, I don't know how much detail that we need to go right now. But anyhow, we don't need to sell the Turtleback now. We came up with another solution. And so it is remaining part of the family, which we're
Very
extremely
happy about.
relieved about because we had so much blood, sweat, and tears into the build and all the memories tied into that thing. So
Yes.
I never want to sell it, honestly.
That's all.
But more details to follow.
Yes. All right, Josh Hansen says, how did you get into overlanding and what gear did you start out with?
Well, we've always been kind of outdoorsy people, even as kids. You know, we both grew up on farms, and so we were outside quite often.
Yeah.
We went camping fairly regularly during the summers.
But I feel like when we first got introduced into overlanding, at the time for us it was called jeeping, because all the dudes you were going with, I had Jeeps or Grand Cherokees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that was the first time I remember like you going on a weekend trip to.
Yes. So to answer the specific question, when did we get into overlanding? It was when we moved to New Mexico and I met Tyler Cox.
Yeah.
And he had a Jeep Cherokee that he had built out, and he's like, "Hey, come on, let's go." It was definitely more of a rock crawling, wheeling adventure. It wasn't per se overlanding, but that was where it began. And went with Tyler several times, had an absolute blast. That's where I was introduced to Ryan Bingham. And if you've never heard Ryan Bingham, just Google Ryan Bingham and you'll have a new favorite artist. Anyhow, that's where I fell in love with it. And being in New Mexico, it was like a whole new world was opened up because there's so much public land. And I mean, we're fixing to go drive on some right now. You can throw a rock and hit a trail. And that was what made it so enticing out here, is because there's so much to see, so much to do. And yeah, that's when it all began for me. Now, the gear that we started with was the Forerunner, a Coleman dome tent, an Igloo cooler, and
actually our first trip was stock. The Forerunner was completely stock. We didn't even have wheels and tires or
with
lift.
the cheesy Dunlop tires.
Yes.
Cut a tire on the first trip, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, so tires are important. Tires are #1 upgrade. So yeah, very basic on our process of getting started, and then eventually moved to the trailer.
Well, and I feel like we did like lifts, the lift and wheels and tires, and then my biggest thing that I wanted next was better refrigeration for food, and so then that's when we did
we started with an ARB, and then that didn't work so well, and so we went to the Snowmaster. Been running Snowmaster ever since.
Tim Rumbles asks, what are some of the challenges you face off camera that may not be thought of when considering such a life on the open road?
Number one is not so much life on, like, you could live on the road full time, but for us specifically, we're YouTubers. And so having enough power and then having internet, those are like the two big things. And a lot of people, they're like, dude, your series is like months and months behind. What is up with this? I'm watching these other vloggers and they're vlogging what they did last week. Well, the simple fact of the matter is we were traveling, number one, super fast to beat the weather.
Yeah.
We were limited on how much time I had to edit.
Yeah.
You know, I was filming like crazy. And then even when I did have time to get something edited, finding internet that had any type of upload speeds was a big challenge. And so those three pieces, that was something I didn't expect. I wanted to upload every week. You know, I wanted to like tell this story and just keep going, and that was not the case. And you know, we spent, you know, after we came back and got in the lower 48, we spent 6 months editing, an inordinate amount of work to get all of that. And I never would have imagined that it would be that hard. I have a new respect for full-time YouTubers. You know, I used to really think that, you guys,
such a posh job.
you've got it made.
Yeah.
Like these guys, you know, YouTube's just paying them all this money, and they're just going around filming stuff and throwing it on the internet. And I'm working harder now than I ever have, and I'm not complaining. It is the world's greatest job. It is the most rewarding job, and our fans make it worth all that effort. But my goodness, it's a lot of work. And so that's what I would say is I did not expect it to be that difficult. Yeah.
All right. Oh, here's a question in my wheelhouse.
Get it.
Okay, Stacy Quimby asks, what cookware do you like the best, and where are your SS serving plates from?
Stainless steel.
Okay, that's what I thought it was. But what GSI are the plates?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so GSI are the stainless steel plates. I got 6, and sometimes we used them all.
Yep.
But they're the best because they weren't plastic, so they weren't scratching from knives being used on them. They weren't looking dingy.
They weren't greasy. You know, you could actually wash them off.
Yes, yeah, like they're the absolute best. Cookware. So here's the thing. I mean, I have a range of things. Well, I guess no. My stock pot and my small non-stick skillet they're both GSI. So those are great because they're both lightweight. The handles are movable. And then the best thing we bought is our big skillet.
Yes.
And that's by
Partner Steel.
Partner Steel.
Yeah. So that's just so you guys know, it's an anodized aluminum griddle. And a lot of folks are going, oh my goodness, you shouldn't eat off aluminum. It's anodized. You're not coming in contact with the aluminum itself. And we're very mindful to always use like bamboo and stuff to cook with so that coating is never removed. And by the way, if you want to do some research, aluminum is not as bad as what people say it is. There's a lot of new research that's out there, so take that for what it's worth. Do your Googling. Comment below with your disagreements. That's okay.
Yeah. So, I guess to say where I got it all was REI or Amazon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, which, by the way, if you go to kit.com/Lifestyle Overland, you can find all that gear. We've been populating that page with everything that we use and categorizing
so there's like a whole kitchen kit.
Yeah, you can go and replicate our entire kitchen right from that website.
So cool. All right, Thacker Burden asks, if you were to start from scratch and on a budget, what would the first mod be to your rig?
Tires.
Yeah.
That's it. Tires.
Even without a lift?
Even without a lift.
Just good tires.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the money to do both, go ahead and buy tires that fit your lift. There's cows on the road. I'm slowing down. Definitely do both at the same time. But honestly, to get started on a budget, get a good four-wheel drive vehicle, the best you can afford, and put the best tires on there you possibly can. And go. And that will do 95% of everything that we do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yep.
All right, Tim and Michelle Davis ask, what was the best unplanned discovery on your trip?
Oh, you go first.
Oh, that's not fair.
Okay, I know.
Okay, go ahead.
Finding Jack McHouston. Finding Jack McHouston. Driving across that river and going, McHouston River? Our last name is a unique last name, right?
Mm-hmm.
And scratching my head for about 2 weeks. Well, the whole time we did the Dempster, and then coming back to Dawson City and stumbling over a portrait of this guy and going, I have never heard of this guy. Google, Jack McHouston, father of the Yukon. What? And the rest is history. Like there's a book on this guy. I don't know how they haven't made a movie about him yet, but I plan on trying to fix that.
All right. I would have to answer that with, could I say like the best unplanned discoveries for me, or I love food and I love to eat all the different things, and I did. I made sure to taste local beer, and I made sure to try Tim Hortons to see if it was the hoopla everybody said it was, and it was fine.
It's okay.
And then that big old cinnamon roll.
Oh.
The sourdough
I would
cinnamon
drive.
roll. I would too. Like right now, because I'm hungry.
Let's go.
I'm like, get me to that giant cinnamon roll. And the bread loaf that we bought.
Oh, jeez.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez.
I just want all the sourdough bread now. And tasting the mug tuck, that felt like such a huge cultural experience and honor to get to do that.
Right.
And eating all of the halibut in Alaska. I ate probably my body weight in halibut in Alaska. Oh, and the farmer's market was really fun too in Fairbanks, and getting to taste the wild strawberries, which were amazing.
Okay, now we've got her started. She's not going to stop.
So
Let's go to the
anyway.
next question.
Okay. Hey, you rambled sometimes too,
I know.
I'm just saying.
Sorry. I'm not going to worry about it. I mean, if you're here watching this video now, you're here because you want to hear what we have to say. So.
Sure. Okay, Garrett James Shannon asks, if you could change anything about your trailer, what would it be?
I've been asked this question a few times, and it's a tough one to answer because that trailer, all of the improvements and modifications that are on it from previous year models are design ideas that I was a part of while I was working for Turtleback.
Yeah.
And so the couple things that we didn't get to do that I really had wished that we had done is enclosing the upper area for picnic tables and chairs, closing that off so the dust and rain and stuff can't get in there. It was kind of cost prohibitive. It was going to add a lot. Then the other thing is oh goodness, they're so minor. Oh, the awning. Setting up the awning can be a little bit of a pain just because while it's extremely strong, sliding those awning poles up and down it's a little bit of a challenge. Not impossible, and I know that they're strong, but yeah, that's like the two things that if I had to tweak, that I would like to tweak.
Yeah. All right, Johnny Smithy. Was just wondering if you're going to do more stateside videos, or are you going to go more global?
Now, we've talked about this in detail, and we've got a lot of ideas. We've got a lot of friends across the world now that have invited us to come and travel their country.
Yeah.
I would say that Australia is high on the list.
Yeah.
No idea as to when that will actually take place, but it would be the first place that we'll probably end up going.
Globally, yeah.
Globally, yeah.
Uh-huh.
After that, New Zealand, Scotland, back to Canada. I want to do the East Coast.
Me too.
And then South America it's going to happen eventually.
Even Baja would be fun to go. Kind of debunk it a little bit for some people.
Yeah. There's a whole nother discussion and logistics to be had on those type of travels.
Yeah. Okay. Darren Strauss. What bear precautions did you take, and did you have any issues with wildlife, especially with your kitchen area right under your tent?
So the main thing on being bear aware and preventing even having that encounter is reducing your smells.
Yeah.
So we were sticklers about cooking, when we can, cooking before we made camp.
Yep.
And then if we did, we cooked, we cleaned up, we ate. It was all very, very fast. And
sometimes would move to a whole other location to sleep.
well, that's what I was saying is sometimes we would stop before camp to cook. And so that's really the big thing is not staying in an area that is just coated in all kinds of smells, and then not camping in areas where bears frequent and are used to human activity. All the crowded campgrounds, that's not what you want. You want to be out and away from that type of environment so you can reduce your odds. That's really the biggest thing, I think, is just keeping your smells down, being very, very aware of your surroundings. And then, we carried bear spray. That was the first thing that came out of the tent in the morning, the last thing that went up in the tent at night. And then, for a lot of you don't know this, but we actually carried a shotgun with us as well, both in Canada and Alaska. We didn't highlight that because, there's some people get sensitive about that, but that's the fact is, we did have a shotgun for worst case scenarios.
Luckily, never had to use it.
Never had to use it.
Never had a bear come into our camp.
Never wanted to use it, right?
No, not a problem. All right, well, that wrapped up Facebook.
Okay.
We'll move on to Instagram.
Let's do Instagram.
All right. Okay. Quaker Shaker 122. I've seen y'all wearing Lifestyle Overland hats, t-shirts, and also saw some patches on your headliner. I'd love some Lifestyle Overland merchandise. Where can I buy it?
www.overlandstyle.com for all your overland merch needs.
All right. Ian Rubish. What apps do you use in your cockpit to find campsites and navigate all the mountain trail roads, etc.? I was just gonna say dun dun dun.
Okay. Gaia GPS. Also use. Let me just look. Primarily use Gaia GPS. I'll have an app called Off-Road Atlas that helps us with the MVUM stuff, but I'm not using it as much now that Gaia has incorporated the MVUMs into their stuff. And then the other apps that we use is like vehicle monitoring. So I use the Torque app to run real-time diagnostics on the 4Runner, especially watching those transmission temps while we're towing and up the mountains and stuff like that. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think so too. Tom Frieda asks, where did you get the griddle that y'all cook on?
Yeah, we talked about that a minute ago. Partner Steel. They're hard to find. They're not on Amazon all the time, so you might have to find a Partner Steel distributor.
Yeah. Prolong Wealth. why the 4Runner and not something larger like a Tundra?
That's definitely been a discussion. Do we want to go to a full-size rig for the extra space or the extra power for towing?
Yeah.
And you know what? The 4Runner is the perfect balance. We talked about this before where, every piece of gear you decide to take, there's a compromise in weight and storage. And so same thing with a vehicle. When you go to a bigger vehicle and a bigger engine, you get some benefits, but you also lose some mobility. And so we feel like the 4Runner is the perfect size for our family of 3. Now, someone that's got, 3 or 4 kids.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All day long, get a Tundra, get a Land Cruiser, get something that's going to make you a bit more comfortable and take that trade-off at that point.
Sure. Okay. Freddie Lua, I'm guessing, asks, when you stock up on food, how long does it last? How do you decide what food to bring along, because not everything can be stored in the Snowmaster? Great question. So I would usually talk with Kevin about, okay, where are we going next? Are we going to be going through a town? What's going to be our next destination? How long is it going to take us to get there? Or how long are we going to be out? So typically, I honestly would plan for 5 to 7 days of food. And that means I would plan dinners, lunch, and breakfast. Typically, our breakfasts were usually almost the same, like oatmeal, cereal, eggs and bacon, eggs and toast, kind of your basic kind of stuff. Granola bars every now and again if we were like get up and go kind of morning. Lunch was usually cheese and crackers, smorgasbord,
Right.
Or sandwiches. And then dinner, I did usually try and put a little more time and effort into it. I did get everything to fit in the Snowmaster, but that's when not that we really made sacrifices on a lot of things, but that's when you really have to decide, like, what's more important to have to eat. Like, we didn't have orange juice, or we didn't get to have, like, ice cubes. Not that we really needed it or anything, but, like, I made sure I had everything that we needed to eat and enjoy at the same time, all to fit in the Snowmaster. And then the rest of it was dry goods, and the rest of that went into the Turtleback, actually. For the most part, I made everything work for 5 to 7 days.
Yep, absolutely.
Polar Bear Roar. How do you finance being on the road? Not the building of the rig, just the running costs.
Okay, so this is a very common question, and eventually I'm going to do a dedicated video on it. When we first started this, we couldn't afford it. And what I mean by that is we didn't have all of the pieces in place to hopefully perpetuate this indefinitely. We had a few pieces. We had operating capital from selling our camper and our truck. We were debt-free when we started all this, and so we didn't have a lot of bills coming in. We had lived in a fifth wheel camper for 3 years, worked like crazy, saved like crazy, and so we had a substantial buffer to allow us to get into this and devote all of our efforts and stuff into the YouTube side of things, as well as managing social media.
Yeah.
And when I say social media, not just ours, we also manage some other companies' social media, and that's something that we can do remotely. That's something we can do mobilely and schedule and things like that. So that was one of the big things that we had to work hard to do, is to make the ends meet. And after it took us about 9 or 10 months after we officially sold out, but we finally were able to get to a position where we could see light at the end of the tunnel. And a lot of that came from Patreon. There's a lot of people who support what we do on Patreon, and thank you guys for all of that. And they get a lot of bonus content. So we're actually working for them as well to give them GPS information and behind the scenes stuff, and to make it worthwhile. The other piece of it is like Amazon affiliates. Generally, if you see us share a product that we use, we got an Amazon affiliate link tied to it. We get a few bucks, whenever something like that gets bought. So it's just a matter of finding a lot of little income streams that don't require a lot of time in order to make the ends meet. Now, for people who are looking to do this, don't just jump into it. Put together a plan, develop some skills, And if you have a job that you could potentially work remotely, then work on talking to your boss about getting to that point, or finding a job where that's allowed.
Yeah.
So so there's a lot of really cool opportunities. You just got to be creative about it and develop all of those different little income streams.
Well, and I feel like when we first initially chose to do this, we were looking at our finances like, this is just going to be a once in a lifetime adventure.
Yeah.
Like we were just at the point where we were done, and we wanted to go and do something fun and exciting. So I don't feel like, and as we went, and so our finances were fine to sustain us, and then as we went along, you were constantly thinking about and planning, like, okay, what if we did this and this for income, and then what if we tried this with this and stuff like that. So I feel like you developed that over time kind of deal as well too.
Absolutely.
So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah.
Bound to Valhalla. You installed your Snowmaster in the back of your 4Runner versus installing it in the Turtleback. What are the pros and cons of this, and do you recommend doing it that way?
I highly recommend installing it in your tow vehicle in all situations and circumstances. The only time that you wouldn't want to do that is when you never disconnect from the trailer. If you're the type of person that goes and camps in one spot and that trailer is always with you, then sure, it can go in the trailer. But if you're like us, sometimes you want to run a bit more difficult trail, and generally you want to eat some lunch along the way, or have something cold to drink. And if the fridge is back at camp, you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to be trying to bring a cooler with you. Well, now you got to figure out, well, how am I going to put ice in this cooler and take stuff with me? So it digresses very, very quickly. The other side of it is inside of that trailer, it's a confined space. It's an enclosed space. So ambient temperatures are going to heat that thing up, and those compressors are not going to run as efficiently if it's installed in an area where it's constantly getting hotter and hotter and hotter, both from ambient temps and the compressors themselves running. So putting it in your vehicle allows you to drive down the road, run your AC, and now that AC is helping your fridge be more efficient and stay cooler. So that's really the two big reasons.
Yeah. Davidson KHD. I'm truly amazed on your editing skills. So am I. How did you learn to edit your videos?
I gotta show you guys real quick.
Oh,
Antelope.
look, I see it too.
Couple of them.
I see
3 of them.
Oh, look at that little baby.
They hide so well in that chola.
Look at that little baby with the big poopy toes. Look at that one just running. Let's run with them, Daddy. Right. Right. Let's drive with
Yeah,
them.
he's moving now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. It was really learn as you go. But I will say that from a very early age, like maybe 7 or 8 years old, I was always the kid that wanted to run the camcorder for holidays and Christmas and stuff like that. And so started shooting just our little family events, and then it kind of grew from there. I got into photography for quite some time. And I guess one of the biggest editing evolutions that I went through was when we were working at a summer camp together, and we would do a recap video for the kids at the end of the week. And so on Thursday night,
Stay up all
we
night.
could stay up till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning compiling and editing all the footage from that week at camp and sharing it with the kids and their families when we would do the ending ceremonies or whatever it was. So that's kind of where I picked it up, and it's just grown from there. Yeah, just learn as you go.
Yep, YouTube, right?
Yeah, and coming from a family of storytellers helps.
It does.
Having been raised listening to the stories of my grandparents and my parents and aunts and uncles and stuff, and learning the delivery, and I think that's essential. You can have all kinds of cool facts and cool shots, but if you can't string that together in an interesting story or a compelling story, that definitely is the difference.
Yeah.
So,
Cool. If you were driving a 4Runner, what would you be driving from Tacoma, Colorado?
if I wasn't driving a 4Runner, there goes the GoPro again.
Too hot.
If I wasn't driving a 4Runner, holy cow, look at this guy.
Big guy taking a nap.
Look at him in the shade.
My sunglasses don't go yet. I want to see sunglasses.
You see that?
He's pretty. All right, we'll leave him alone.
Yeah!
All right. All kinds of wildlife. We love every little encounter, so I'd stop to see them.
So what would you be driving if not the 4Runner?
If I wasn't driving the 4Runner, and we've been discussing this lately. If I wasn't driving the 4Runner, I'd be driving either a GX 470 or a GX 460, or 100 series Land Cruiser. Yeah.
Or the Beast?
Well, yeah, obviously the Beast, our Land Cruiser. But I mean, like for what we do
Yeah.
for this, like a replacement for this, it would be a GX of some sort.
Yeah. Totally agreed. Have you Overland Jeepsy asks, have you considered overlanding from Alaska to Argentina?
Yes.
HM Cadera. Sorry. Did you have videography skills before going on the adventure, or did you learn as you went? And what are some tips for not only beginner overlanders, but beginner videographers?
I already answered that first part, so I'll jump straight to the second part. The biggest advice that I can give to someone who is getting started is get started.
Yeah.
Don't wait until you're good. Don't wait until you have the best camera. Don't wait. Start shooting, start editing, start posting, and you will grow through practice. The other piece to that is watch videos of people that you enjoy and attempt to replicate that. You know, if there's a shot that you're like, oh man, like I recognize that there was some effort that went into getting that particular shot and it made the video look good. So start trying to replicate that in your own videos and then come up with some of your own unique ideas. You never know what you might stumble on that people are just going to love.
Yeah. AZ98XJ says, if you could revisit any place you've traveled for the sole purpose of having a delicious pastry, where would you go and what would you have? But I'm going to take it a little step further and say, because I feel like, I mean, obviously it's going to be hands down the sourdough cinnamon roll, but how about we rephrase the question to say, if you could revisit any place you've traveled, where would you go back to? If you could go back for a week or a month, where would you go back to? I know where I would go.
Where would you go?
Seward, Alaska.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I would go back to British Columbia. There were millions of miles of trails in BC and stuff to see that we
didn't even get to touch.
we didn't even see the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
So BC, that's where I'd go back to.
Yeah. GTA Greg says, where do you store the tent cover? I've seen you remove it many times, but not sure where you store it when the tent is set up. Great question. We roll it up and shove it under the trailer.
Yeah. Yeah, in the past we would just leave it flapping against the trailer, but now that the controls and stuff for the trailer are in that side, and we just didn't want to listen to it slap all night long, we just take it off, roll it up. Actually, the main reason we never took it off is the last brand that we had. It was a bear
Booger
to take off and go back on, especially if it was wet. But now, I mean, literally one-handed, you can slide that 23-0 cover off.
I can do it
so
by
it's
myself.
easy. It's easy.
Moron, what do y'all use when you have to use it?
We use a clean waste pop-up toilet, and then we use a rest stop pop-up privacy tent. And again, you can go to kit.
If we feel like putting up the tent.
Well, if you need to. I mean,
that's true.
Most of the places we didn't even need it. But again, kit.com/lifestyle overland. There's a little group of products in there too, so you can replicate that.
I feel like I'm gonna say this wrong. Diabetic taco. How do I convince my wife to step outdoors with me and maybe even sleep in a tent? You gotta start her real slow. Yeah. You gotta start her real slow. You gotta glamp it. Because that's what he did. Because I grew up camping. But one of my camping experiences, the whole tent flooded. And we were miserable the whole time. But then I also did a lot of backpacking in high school. But then I kind of went into this posh pretty girl phase where the idea of going camping did not sound fun. And so when Kevin wanted to start camping and overlanding, or add camping to the overlanding experience, I was not too keen about it, especially considering we had a 15-month-old at the time.
Yeah.
So he made sure he got a big tent. He actually let me pick nice, like pretty sheets and bedding for our air mattress. He picked a really nice air mattress, and he made sure that I was able to cook good meals rather than doing hamburgers and hot dogs the whole weekend kind of deal. So baby steps and make it as comfortable as possible. And then you can start ruggedizing it slowly but surely as she catches on and starts to like it. She may never, and that's fine. Some people don't, and that's okay.
It's not worth being miserable, but small victories go a long way.
Really make you feel very
I'll share one quick story.
Oh my.
So early in our adventures in New Mexico, Sarah has always had a problem doing her duty outdoors.
Yes.
And so
always.
That was always a sticking point, and that was why she never wanted to go until I finally came up with a couple of products, and it was the Rest Stop bucket, and it was a Browning pop-up privacy tent. And I'll never forget the first trip we went on.
Where we had all of that.
We had all that set up, and I just kind of had it over in the corner, and we had our breakfast, and she had her coffee, and, you know, I'm sitting here waiting because I know what's coming next. And she goes into the tent, and I hear from the other side of the tent after a few minutes, "Kevin, you've changed camping for me."
Yeah.
And the rest is history. It was that little thing made a huge difference. And so you just learn, camping doesn't have to be about roughing it all the time.
Right.
There are some people who believe camping is about eating
beanies and
weenies and sleeping under a tarp, and, you know, like, if that's your thing, if that's what makes you feel alive, if that's what gives you the experience you want, that's camping to you, and that's fine. But there's nothing wrong with taking some comforts, because you'll stay longer and you'll enjoy it more. So do it in a way that makes it enjoyable for you.
Yeah. Okay, Garrett Kloska, overall miles per gallon of the 4Runner with trailer and scariest low fuel experience.
11.4 miles to the gallon for the entire trip. We would see as low as 7 miles to the gallon, like on the Dempster in 4 inches of mud. So, you know, it could change drastically. We were never strapped for fuel. I took far too much fuel. I had 22 gallons of extra fuel. Never needed it. The most I ever used was 4 gallons. So I was very impressed with the frequency of all of the fuel stations and stuff along the way. So, not to say you won't need that much at some point in time, but we didn't need it.
Josh, D67. As a single man wanting to overland full-time, what advice could you give to people like myself on how to afford the lifestyle?
Don't get caught up in all the gear. Don't think that you have to have everything just right, just perfect before you can get out there and go. Buy a rig that you can afford. You need a car anyhow, so buy something that can do both jobs, getting you where you need to go and take you on some trips on the weekend. Put some good tires on it, and then All you need is a dome tent, a pillow, toothbrush, maybe a little bit of toilet paper and water. Get out there and go. That's the main thing. And then you can build on your kit as you have the funds and as you determine, hey, I think I need this next.
Yeah.
That's half the fun. I think that if you started out with everything, it wouldn't be near as fun as going out there and learning, where your weak points are, what you like, what you dislike, and tweaking your kit to make it the most enjoyable experience and safest experience possible for your style of travel.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the misconception is that when you look at us, we've had this rig for 5 years. Like this, we didn't decide that we were going to go to Alaska and then just do all these awesome things to our car. We've done this over 5 years with saving and planning and choosing when do we buy this bumper and when do we do this installation kind of deal. So,
and we didn't have any sponsors other than like 3 or 4 things in the past 6 months. So if you're thinking, oh yeah, people, no,
this is our
rig. Yeah. Seriously, this is our rig.
Yeah. That's a great follow-up question to Tactic Cool 45. Is Turtleback sponsoring you?
No. We're not monetarily sponsored by anyone. We aren't paid to say anything is good. We aren't paid to show you a product. We just use the stuff. Now, there's a few companies that we've partnered up with on affiliate programs, but that was because we already used the product for years and trusted it and know that it's a quality item. And so when we were already pushing people that direction, like for Gaia, for example, we were using that on a daily basis. And so to say, yeah, this is awesome, you need this, was a natural evolution. And so we talked to Gaia before we went on the trip and said, look, we're already sending people your way. Is there a way that we can monetize what's already taking place? And so, yeah, we became affiliates with Gaia GPS, and it's just a few bucks here and there. But like I said, to do this full time, you have to have multiple streams of income. And so a few bucks here, a few bucks there adds up. Yeah. And that's really the key. And we really want to stay away from sponsorships because we've seen what can happen when the stress of attempting to please a company comes into play, when you're just trying to go out and have an adventure and not worry about getting this shot or that shot or saying the right thing. And so to be able to go out here and be free and rely on our viewers to support us primarily on Patreon and stuff like that, that's where we want to be. We want to represent you guys with honesty and integrity and be able to give you a true, honest review. And someone just waved at us, so someone just recognizes. Yeah, nice. That's awesome. So,
and be authentically ourselves.
Exactly.
Like that was one thing where when we were first starting, Kevin was like, should I go to this person and say we're getting ready to do this trip? Would they want to give us this? And I'm like, no, I don't want to owe anything to anyone on this trip.
And we didn't need anything. That was it. Is we really didn't need anything.
No.
I did reach out to, and this is full disclosure, I did reach out to Snowmaster because I've been using them while I was working for Turtleback, and I was like, these fridges are legit. And the one we were using at the time, it was just not maintaining temperature right. It just wasn't operating right, and I knew we needed that before we took off. And so Todd is awesome. He hooked us up with that 66 liter, and we tested the absolute crap out of it, and it's still going strong. So
Mama got sass. Ooh, sounds like we'd be friends. Does Caroline get antsy in the car for long periods? How do you keep her occupied, and do you take frequent breaks?
Well, just so you guys know, like right now, we've been driving for about an hour shooting this video. And with years of experience and training, she's gotten to where she can sit like this for quite some time. And there is not much to see where we're driving right now other than just a few antelope and cows. And so it takes time to get to that point. And some days it just doesn't work. So yes, she does get antsy. She is a 6-year-old kid.
Yeah, I was about to say, she's still 6.
Absolutely. But with time and with training and taking those moments to let her be bored and to be okay with that is
so much
crucial.
Creativity has happened.
It's crucial to get to that point.
And also, yes, we do take frequent breaks. When we are highway traveling, we usually stop almost every 2 hours for fuel, potty, stretch our legs, whatever.
Yeah.
And then on the trail, we stop very often for shots and for lunch and other stuff like that. So it just takes time and practice, and don't get impatient.
Yeah.
And like Kevin said earlier, we decided a long time ago it is not our job to entertain our children, our child.
Yeah, they need to learn to entertain themselves. And one thing that we didn't mention before is rewards.
Yeah.
So her personality type responds really well to having a reward. So maybe it's earning tablet time, maybe it's a treat, maybe it's stopping at a park to play at a playground. We've used all of those as motivation to help her be patient and have a good attitude and to be respectful. And so that's been a huge part of getting her to where we are now.
This road, it takes me home where skies are blue. I walk this road because I know it leads to you. No matter.
So what have we been doing since the end
Of our trip.
of season 1?
Yeah.
A lot of fun stuff, a lot of not so fun stuff. Long story short, came back from Canada, visited with some friends in Arizona, stopped in New Mexico, picked up our dog Zeke, and then headed east. And we were over in Tennessee for several months, visiting family for the holidays, attending Expo East, and editing like crazy.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we had some ideas for season 2 that we were hoping to implement, something that would help us perpetuate what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And those things didn't work out so well.
Yeah.
So much so that there's actually some legal issues that we're going through right now, trying to make things the way they should be. We haven't shared this information publicly yet. We're hoping that the people involved will make the right decision and make things right before it turns into a bigger issue. We will be sharing this story with you at some point in time, but until then, suffice it to say that we're working through a lot of things, and it's part of the reason why we're here in New Mexico now. So if you'd like to know more details, we've shared some of this stuff with our patrons over on patreon.com/Lifestyle Overland. It's not that we're, again, trying to be cryptic about this, but there are some legal implications, and we want to make sure that we're very judicious in how we share those details moving forward.
Right.
So, but wow, what an epic adventure. What an epic journey for us, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally and as a family. And wow, it's been incredible. Thank you guys so much for riding along with us, for sharing your encouragement, for supporting us. You're truly the best fans we could ever ask for, and we just really thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Yeah.
So, anything else you want to say?
No, we're good.
All right, guys. Thanks for riding along. Thanks for all the questions. I hope you enjoyed them. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, do all those things. But if you don't want to, it's your life. Do what you want to do. Until next time, safe travels.